columnist for the Chicago Tribune. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Reverend.
Congressman, let me go to you first. What's your reaction to today's two rulings?
Well, they've been trying since the bill was passed to gut it. And there have been one attempt after another. We've had 50 attempts to repeal it in the House. We've had the Supreme Court case that already went up there. This is a constant. They're taking each segment of it and bringing it to court. The question you ought to be asking is, who's financing these lawsuits? These people are out there. They don't have the money to go to a federal court and then go to an appeals court and go all the way up to the Supreme Court out of their own pocket. They're getting a subsidy. The people who are protesting are ones who are eligible for a subsidy, and they are saying, we don't want it. Now, what they want is us to pay for their health care. It makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it's a good point, but Clarence, you know, it's one thing to fight a law before it takes effect. But now you're talking about taking back health care from millions of people. I mean, how will that affect the whole political landscape this year if this happens?
Well, I suspect that there are a lot of lawmakers who are relieved at the notion that this probably wouldn't get to the Supreme Court till after the election. Because the fact is, as much as Republicans talk about these various libertarian ideas and all that, they also know, as Ted Cruz, among others, has said, that once you get Obamacare passed, it's likely to be so popular that people won't want to repeal it. Once they've got a benefit, they don't want to give it back. And so it's going to be tough for a lot of politicians to actually have to vote against it if it came down to that. In other words, that this would all go back to Congress to rewrite the law. So I think it's much more likely that the courts will want to defer to the executive, as the Virginia judges said unanimously. There's ample precedent for that, and avoid all of the terrible fireworks.
This is frightening. You know, Congressman, I want to read some of the Republican reaction to today's decision against the subsidies. Speaker Boehner called it, quote, proof that President Obama's health care law is completely unworkable. Senator Ted Cruz said it was, quote, a repudiation of Obamacare and all the lawlessness that has come with it. And Governor Bobby Jindal claimed it was no surprise after the president rammed Obamacare through Congress without any care for following the Constitution and the laws of this country. I mean, how can they make these same attacks when the law is working, Congressman?
I don't know. You know, there are 14.5 million people, as you said earlier, who are getting health care because of the Affordable Care Act. And for them now to try and dismantle it and throw those people back out in the street with no coverage by this technicality is, in my view, the height of political cynicism. That is all it is, because I expect what's going to happen is that the government is going to go in and ask the whole circuit court here in D.C. to review the decision of these three judges. I think it will be overturned at this level and will never get up to the Supremes. But I really think that it is the height of political cynicism to say you want to take away from people a program that's working and giving them health insurance. I mean, 87% of the people who would be thrown out by this decision are receiving subsidies, which means they're poor people. They're just barely making it. And here you are taking it away from the middle class again. It's the Republicans attacking the middle class. I mean, it's the same old story.
You know, Jeffrey, would this go down, this Affordable Care Act, as one of the most litigated things that we've seen in America? I mean, you've had Hobby Lobby, the original ruling, now this could go to the Supreme Court. It would have to be among the most litigated that we've seen in American history.
This is very bad for the country, but very good for places like the National Constitution Center, because we can have panels and discussions about these things every single week. And you ain't seen nothing yet. There's more coming down the line. They're going to go after the president for not executing the law on time. There are going to be other legal challenges. It's full employment for law professors and Constitution Center executives.
It's good for the right wing, too, my Clarence, in terms of playing to their base. But what about moderates?
Well, moderates are going to look at this and say, well, is this yet another polarized issue that results in the benefits to millions of people being threatened by one line taken out of context in the law? A rather obvious typo here when you look at all the other parts of the Obamacare law that talk about state exchanges and put them in the same level as the federal exchanges. It's very obvious that this law is aimed at affordable care for everybody, universal care. And that's a pretty obvious thing. So I think a lot of moderates, as I mentioned earlier, if Obamacare really does appear to be threatened, it'll be a lot like Medicare. Back in the 60s, Ronald Reagan called Medicare creeping socialism, Marxism, etc. But it's now the most popular program in the federal government.
But to think that on a typo, they would wipe this out. I mean, every time I think I've heard it all, I hear some more. Congressman Jim McDermott, Clarence Page, and Jeff Rosen, thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
We'll see you again.
Coming up, Sarah Palin. She may not even be in Georgia for today's Republican primary election.